Welcome to another legendary deep dive. Today we have the man, the myth, the legend himself, Andrew Gonzalez, and I believe his business partner, Mr. James, is joining us.
One and the same.
I'll let him fill you in on that as
There he
well.
is. There he is.
But I wanted to bring in Andrew as well. He's been working in CSM and Elite for a couple years now, and has done like some pretty remarkable things within his filming career, let's say. I know you for 2 years now, you've been working on a full-length documentary, which is 5 years now, which is a huge passion project for you. And you've been like finding ways to get funding and just make all that happen. You've been working with clients as far as like the marketing stuff, obviously, and implementing like content strategy for them, but also worked a ton with like big music video productions. You've said you've done like productions with like 40, 50 people, right?
Yeah, it was with just crew and extras and just all kinds of crazy stuff, hopefully talk about some of that stuff, just
Absolutely
going big. And
yeah, so he's got a ton of experience. The core of what I want to accomplish today is just chat a little bit about like his whole journey, where he was before he started working with Content Strategist Mastermind, kind of like how that's helped his business evolve. And I feel like me and Andrew are very similar in the ways like our brain works and our like creative energy, and like we like having multiple plates, multiple pots on the stove at a time, and we're always like, how can we do more? How can we do more? I know I can do more. So I think it's going to be a really awesome deep dive, and a ton of gold is going to come out of this. So gather your questions. At some point at the end, we'll open it up for Q&A so that we can just get you guys cued into anything else. But Andrew, first off, welcome, dude. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Thank you for having me. I feel honored to be here.
Absolutely. So before we get into like where you're at now, like why don't you just start us at the beginning? Like when did you first start creating, let's say?
Well, we got to go way back to like, I've been digitizing some old VHS tapes that I discovered at my parents' house. And I've been doing that for like 2 or 3 weeks. And, there's some videos in there, me like 5 years old, air guitaring, jumping off of things. And, my dad's 16 millimeter and I'm up in the camera. And then, fast forward 5th, 6th grade, one of my best friends who's been in Hollywood for a long time, we were making videos and lighting things on fire and, special effects and all that stuff, from very young. So I've been doing this for a long time, and I really got into it. Let me see. Am I allowed to share my screen? I kind of wanted to show a few things.
Yeah.
So here goes my desktop. Let's see if you guys can see some of this. Let's see. Oops, I'm sorry. Okay. That's my movie. Okay. So here we go. Here I am here on the left. This was my band, and I went really hard here for several years. And then here's some, there's me playing the guitar and me rocking out there. So this was kind of like my dream, rock star dream here. And if anyone's ever played music or tried to like really make it happen, it's tough. It's a really long road. I mean, I don't know if you guys ever heard of this band called The Sword, but they toured with Metallica for like 2 years over in Europe and all this crazy stuff. And the guitar player was like working the door at a bar yesterday that I was at in Austin, working the door and then working the bar. So it's a tough road in the rock and roll game, just, to say the least. So I went really hard with that and, did some touring and did all that stuff. But in that is when I started developing the content, marketing stuff. I started making videos, making electronic press kits, interviewing my band members, filming, singers that were auditioning for the band, putting that stuff out on the internet. And then I started doing that for other bands. And I was writing EPKs. I was just all kinds of little marketing stuff. And this is like pre-Instagram, very like maybe pre-Facebook. This was early on, pre-YouTube, all that stuff. So it was like a very different time back then. It was hard like to get videos on the internet. You had to like compress them to like 3 MB. It was crazy. So since then, a lot has changed. And that's kind of what really got me started in this whole world. It's just playing music, right? And then just the music video thing that was always my dream. And then a partner of mine, I used to play at this club, and the owner of the club, we just became friends. The club shut down, the band fell apart, and we went to California. We produced reggae music festivals for like 5 years. And then I did all the content for that, right? Marketing, building the websites, after movies, animations, all kinds of crazy stuff. And, through that, I just started just developing this style of just like wacky, fun stuff, making things look bigger. That's always been my thing. Like, how can you make something look bigger with no money or very little money, right? And so if you guys are ever find yourself in that situation, number one thing to do to make something look bigger than it really is, long lens. Okay. Get yourself a long lens and just compress the image, and you can make 10 people look like 100 people. Okay. That is the magic right there. And I took that to the bank for so many years. So, and then also, when you're shooting.
Quick point on that
Okay,
too.
go ahead.
Like, we use long lenses all the time. So like in Antarctica, everyone was like, holy crap, look at how massive these icebergs are. We've never seen it like this. And it's because I was using a 600mm lens, to where you punch all the way in, it brings those back objects that much huger.
Absolutely.
So I got the little skiffs the same way. I love that.
Absolutely. You just make everything look huge. Just like Ceebz said, you make the mountains look bigger. You just make life look bigger. So if you're not shooting a long lens, you guys got to get a long lens in your equipment, because it's just, a lot of people don't understand that. And because a long lens is expensive, a good one. So a lot of video shooters, they just don't. You see these guys just run around on gimbal all the time, and their videos just look like the same shot over and over again, right? But go to the bank with long lens, wide lens, long lens, wide lens. If you just combo that back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, I mean, your videos will just have a massive difference. So I did that whole thing because our first music festival, I think we had like 2,000 people there in this huge area. And that's kind of like how I figured that out. That was my big lesson in getting into that world. So fast forward, then there's another client where things just weren't working out, and I had to just like walk away. I guess that's just another lesson. Like, when things aren't working out for you and you find yourself just like hating what you're doing, or you just don't like how you're being treated. And I think sometimes clients will not appreciate the value that you're bringing as a video producer, and they'll try to strong arm you and stuff. Just feel free to walk away. Just say, thanks, but no thanks. I, appreciate it. I think there was someone in the Slack channel that was talking about how he was being treated, and it's just like so many red flags. Walk away from that.
Stacy just had a recent post with a nightmare client that was like not wanting to pay and stuff. You'll find that, because it's like sometimes just that person, like that is their personality. They almost have to talk down to people to feel better about themselves or whatnot. So when the red flags go off, see ya.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of times, like this partner of mine, and who I was just with yesterday, he has this like a personality to try to strong arm you, and even though like things have changed, because I walked away from him several times, he's trying to get me to do like more work for less. And it's like they use language like, well, this is the most I've ever paid you, or this is the most I've ever paid anybody. And it's like, well, this is the biggest discount I've ever given anybody. Like, you're getting a discount, bro. Like, this is what you have to understand, not what you think. This is how it is, So that has boded well for me several times, just walking away, because I mean, there was one time when so after the whole music thing went down, just a quick little side note, I got into some trouble, I'm not going to go into what happened, but I did get into some trouble, and I was just in a bad state, and I didn't have a good business. This was probably over 10 years ago. And that was when I first started discovering personal development. So early on in my career, someone had tried to turn me on to Think and Grow Rich twice. I wasn't a big reader and I just shelved it. And one time I tried to read it and I just shelved it, right? It just didn't ring true with me. So when I got into trouble, I had to do something because I had to come up with money. I mean, don't let me get into it. So now YouTube was full blown and I found like this Napoleon Hill stuff on YouTube. And I would just listen to Napoleon Hill every single day. I mean, I was living in a horrible place. Just life had just like taken a turn and I had to get myself out of it. So it's like Napoleon Hill every day, Napoleon Hill, Napoleon Hill, Napoleon Hill. Then I started doing like all the stuff it teaches in Think and Grow Rich. Write down your goals, write down the dates when you're cheap. This is huge. If you guys aren't doing this, like this is magic sauce. You know, if you're not writing down your goals, and what's happening is like, and I'm not going to get all like real existential here because I can and we'll talk for hours. But what's happening is we're living in this like, I don't know, a simulated thing, existence or a magic world or a video game or something is going on. But what's happening is like thoughts are not yours. You basically, your mind is like an antenna and thoughts are just like happening. And so to make them real, you got to take them out of the metaphysical world and you got to bring them into the physical world by writing them down. Once you write that down, it becomes real, you know, and writing them down, vision board, all that stuff, you're making it into like reality, you know? And so that's what I did. I started writing down. I was living in like a $900 apartment in Austin with my girlfriend at the time. And, you know, I had to get out of that situation and I never paid more than that for rent anywhere. And like, I wrote down that I was going to buy a house, like where I wanted to go live. And I bought a house like in 18 months and I bought the house in 12 months, you know, and I was like negative. Like I owed money, you know, I was in trouble and I owed like, the whole thing cost me like $25,000 and I was like in the negative. I had to come up with money to pay for all these fees and fines and stuff. And then I ended up paying everything off super fast. I ended up buying a house. I had a whiteboard on the wall. I bought like $50,000 worth of gear, you know, and a lot of this stuff came from because a few years earlier, a client was hiring me for like $2,500 videos. And I was like, bro, this is not enough to do what you're asking. And at the time, that was almost the most I'd ever been paid for a video. But I said, and we got into it, same kind of thing. You know, marketing agency, you know, how are we supposed to get paid? And I'm like, I don't know, you know, raise your price so you can get paid, you know? So that was my only client at the time. My only like client that was feeding me constant work. And I just let them go. So now I had no clients, essentially. It was stuff here and there, but that was like my steady client. Well, once all this stuff happened, I was putting it out to the universe, and I reached out on LinkedIn. Hey, man, how's it going? Just want to check in on you guys. That one message led to like $75,000 worth of work that year. All of a sudden, it became one thing, which became a campaign. Every week there was a video, like a $7,000-8,000 video, like quick turnaround, all kinds of crazy stuff. And I just worked my ass off. Before I knew it, you know, $50,000 worth of gear, bought a house, you know, after that, before I knew it, 2 cars, motorcycles, you know, all kinds of stuff. Like my life had just changed, you know? So I kind of cleaned my act up a little bit, kind of didn't. But I was making money at least, and I was like focused on doing that, you know. But then with money comes, you're like, oh, I have money. Like I would go do a job and all of a sudden like make $20,000, and I'm like, cool. I'm just gonna like, you know, I live on the river, man. It's like people would party here. It's like a resort community, and I would go during the week and just like start drinking, tubing down the river and stuff. It's like I had $20,000 in my bank. Like fuck it, you know. And so then it was like, my life kind of became that for a little bit. And then I was like, this is not it. You know, I have the house, I have cars, I have motorcycles. And I'm like, this sucks. You know, this is not what I want to do with my life. So enter into personal development again. Here's a picture here. This is a Tony Robbins event. Tony Robbins doesn't do many live events anymore. but he's doing one a year. If you can make it to a Tony Robbins event, I highly, highly recommend it. This shit changed my life. Like, incredible. You know, there's a lot of people who are doing personal development, but there's nothing like these events. There's like 15,000 people going nuts for 4 days. And when you get out of this, your life has changed. Like, you're just, you know, and I've done the virtual thing. It's not the same. So there's one happening in Dallas at the end of this year. We're going to try and go, me and my girlfriend. If you can make it to one of these Tony Robbins events, I mean, the dude's like in his 60s. He's not going to be doing this forever. Highly recommend that.
Yeah, because I'm
Anyways,
taking over. Sorry.
yeah, exactly. Ceebz is going to be the next guy. So then, you know, I come out of this event and you're just like jacked up, you know, I can achieve anything kind of thing. So one of the things Tony Robbins had said that just has stuck with me forever is proximity is power. Okay. Which means you got to go be next to the thing you want to be doing. Like, if you want to be, you know, making Hollywood films, you got to go to Hollywood. Not so much anymore. I mean, you can kind of do this stuff almost anywhere, but still, you know, you got to go where stuff's happening. There's a girl you want to date, you got to go be next to her. You know, you got to go show up where you want to be. You know, that's a big thing. So me at the time, I was like, I want to make some real gritty documentary stuff. That's what I want to do with my life. You know, I was really into Vice at the time, and they used to do cool stuff back in the day. And so I said, okay, where can I go that I can get access to, that I can shoot something that's, you know, that would make me legit. So at the time, there was this big pipeline protest going on in North Dakota. It was called Standing Rock. And it was like, I mean, people were getting shot with water cannons in freezing temperatures by the police. It was nuts. So here's me in Standing Rock. I went out there with some people, and you know, I stayed in this teepee right here, and there was a blizzard like 3 nights in a row. I thought the thing was going to come crashing down. It was really crazy. There's a bunch of protesters there. And so I went out there with an intention of, like, you know, making a short documentary. And that's what we did. So we went out there and kind of just supported the cause. And I put myself in a situation where, like, the stakes were very, very high. I mean, it was like life and death, you know, as if you saw on the news, like, some people died out there. It was wild. And it just really changed my perspective on everything, and, like, showed me that, you know, all you got to do is just go. A lot of times, just take off, just go, you know. And we made this documentary, and, like, I think it, like, we put it out and it got like 250,000 views, like, in a week. And then we went to some film festivals and, you know, went to LA and did some things with it. But it's like, and talking about putting out content for yourself, once I did that, everybody I knew, I was like the most legit person that they knew, right? Because at that point, everybody was like, oh yeah, I wanted to go to that. You know, that was everybody saying, I wanted to go to that. And I'm like, motherfucker, we went, you know, like, I know you wanted to go, but we went, and it was real. And so it just, like, legitimized us for doing that. And things just changed. Like, I got seen as a very serious filmmaker, not just, you know, making, you know, I don't know, independent movies at home or whatever. Like, people started seeing me very, very different. And that kind of led me to, like, the project that I'm doing now, which is this feature-length documentary that we can go into in just a second. But that's kind of my story over the last 10 years, you know. And then the music videos came from, you know, just being in the music industry and making stuff, always going big, always creating a bigger idea than what people, you know, needed or asked for, you know, just trying to do more all the time, which can be a good and can be a bad thing, depending.
Yeah.
You know, because it can totally crush you. Like, the last year I did like 3 music videos in 4 days, and it just totally crushed me. You know, but, you know, those videos are all, like, you know, they're in the hundreds of thousands now, and, you know, like, they've propelled the artist into a new realm. And, you know, there's something to be said about that. Like, those are things I can show when I talk about, you know, being able to create things that can contribute to someone else's success.
Sure.
Which is, you know.
So I want to jump back to a couple
points throughout that story because it was funny how many similarities there were between you and me. So Napoleon Hill was the first. I read 10 Laws of Success by Napoleon Hill. That book was what set me off on my journey. And while reading that, a lot of the things he talks about, he'll literally call it out and say, I know this is going to sound stupid to sit in front of the mirror and say this to yourself 20 times a day, but rip this page out of your book, write it out, whatever you need to do, post it, get in front of the mirror, do these things. Like, you know, a couple of the other rules were like, always don't dress for the job you have, dress for the job you want. You know, no matter what, the way your physical appearance, that is your first impression when it comes to people. They can make a snap judgment that can never go away. Always work harder than you're paid for. So like, even when I had a job, I would always try to just take on more because I knew it would just help me learn shit. Working with clients, there's so many times where you just go the extra mile, even when you don't have to. But like Andrew was just saying, like, you have that now to showcase future people and you adjust rates as you go with that. So that was huge. Was it just like Napoleon Hill, like clips, or what you were just listening to some of his like I guess live stuff? But
yeah, like, you know, it's like these, just like today people have seminars, so it was like his seminar and he was speaking, and it's all the, you know, it's the same stuff. Laws of success, definite major purpose, you know, that's the big one. Definite major purpose, all the things you talked about, all the stuff in Think and Grow Rich. I was just listening to it over and over again.
Dude, they're so good. And I still like talking about Tony Robbins now. Unleash the Power Within is probably a book I've listened to at least 10 times now. Like, especially when I do get down, like take on too much, get fucking burnt out, whatever it is, need just like the artificial boost even in my subconscious. It's like, put that on and just keep drilling these like, you are powerful things. Because it is your voice in your head is what, for me, created all these limiting beliefs that I believed were true about myself. Like I was never a good student. I could never read. The way I like learned to read was Entrepreneur and Inc. magazine, just like short articles, right? I couldn't even like take on the 4-page ones because I would fail at finishing it and like feel bad about myself. Then like I found audiobooks later on. But Tony Robbins, listened to a lot of his stuff, and I didn't do his live event. I did something, I think it's called Landmark Forum, which was very similar. It was an in-person 200, it was only 200 people, but in person for 3 full days, 14 hours a day, something like that, like revisiting your life, these stories you've told yourself over and over again, like questioning, wait, are these even true? Or like, why do I believe that I'm not smart when
the programming?
Right. You program yourself, and it took time and still is daily work. Like going to the gym, you stop going to the gym, you stop being in shape. Mindset is the same thing. It requires daily practice and routines to always stay at your like peak point. So I love that about live event. I'll try to join you at the end of the year. For sure. That would be awesome. Take the RV over there and post up in Texas for a bit.
Do it. And hypnosis, I mean, this is what's happening, guys. Like, you've been hypnotized by not, you know, television is a huge one, but just by other people, you know, just like if you start to notice what some other people are saying, you'll hear them like talking shit about themselves, you know, calling themselves as dumbasses, or like you know, I think I don't know where I heard someone say it the other day, just, you know, I used to have this neighbor in his neighborhood, and he'd say, "Oh, you dumbass, Ken." He was calling himself a dumbass every time he did some minor thing. You know,
that language you speak to yourself in affects a lot about, like, you'll hear me correct you, not you guys, but like whoever, just be like, when we do that, right? When you accomplish, not if I accomplish this or that, like you're setting yourself, you're subconsciously telling yourself it's okay not to complete that. Right. So there's all these little things. And what Napoleon Hill taught me, because what he did was just for 10 or 20 years, just studied people and interviewed people and top performers and all this stuff. Success is a formula. It is 100%. There are steps you need to do, and it's a formula. Like, that's where you see these blue collar, like millionaires, the guys that just were like, well, no one wanted to like move the poop, so I got a truck and moved the poop, and next thing you know, like I got a bunch of people moving poop. Like, You see those guys like, how is this guy a millionaire? It's because it's not like it's not reinventing the wheel. You don't need to come up with the craziest new idea and invent Chat GPT 5.0, right? Like it is literally following a formula, becoming a better version of yourself, and patience and perseverance. So 100% believe in all of that. The next point I wanted to bring up was proximity is power, because I'm the same way. Like I'm sitting in Paul's driveway. I haven't even seen Paul in a week, but if I need him, he's there and I can be like, hey, how do I go faster with this? What would you do in this situation? Like little things like that. And the last bullet point I wrote here was just got to go. Because the same thing for me, and like for me, I love filming like wildlife. And it wasn't until like I went to Kenya probably and I met locals that made fun of me for thinking like the safari I did was awesome. They're like, it's a Disney World ride. You sit in a Jeep, you drive around, you look at animals. They're like, that's not a safari. Come with us. We walk, we camp. Like there's no vehicles like that. And I'm like, you just do that? And they're like, yeah, you can just do anything you want. Like, and so like the first time I went out to film gators and like wanted to just go like find the biggest gators and get in the water with them, like you can just do it. And it's like, no one's here to tell you this or that, So I love that. Make moves, just got to go. Sometimes you got to jump off the cliff and put yourself, this is one other thing, put yourself in those situations. So do you find that there's like, how do you create that healthy level of like pressure on yourself to push yourself? Like you said, you took on 3 music videos in 4 days, and like you take on like you could have gave up on the movie 2 years in, right? But fuck no, you're still at it, right? So like, I'm curious to hear your response, because I know there's certain things that I'll like convince myself in my head I need to do just to put like a little pressure on myself. Is there anything like that you do?
Well, it's funny because one thing I want to improve is wanting to quit these things every day. Everything you just mentioned, like I want to quit them every single day, but I feel like locked into it, right? So how I put pressure on things is like, one, talking a big game, because I know I can do these things. Like I see everything in my head. I mean, here's an example right here. This is a music video I did. This is my living room that I turned into this control center thing. I just put a bunch of screens on the TV and dressed up a guy we knew like a soldier, and that's my living room, right? So it's like I can see things in my head and then just do them. But sometimes here's a spaceship that we built in the living room, and then that's what happens. I can see them, I can do them, and then I start doing it, and I'm like, oh fuck, now everybody's watching me, right? Oh fuck, the record label just wrote a $30,000 check. This organization just gave me $150,000. Oh fuck, we spent the money. You know what I mean? It's like I just did it, took the money, and then like I just have the integrity that I'm never gonna give up. Like I'm always gonna answer the phone. I'm never gonna try to lie my way out of something or give an excuse. I just have to continue on. So I think you used the word healthy. I'm not sure anything that I'm doing is really that healthy, but it's deep down, even though I'm like, oh, this sucks, man, why am I doing it? I love it. Like I love, maybe I'm addicted to the pressure or to the, just something about the intensity, but I love going big. I love playing big, and I just love doing stuff that other people won't do or are not capable of doing. And I just like doing it and saying we can do it. Like, what do you mean we can't do that? Like, of course we can do that, because I know how to do it, but sometimes it requires more money than we have, but I'm not willing to sacrifice what I feel needs to be done. Now, the downside of that is sometimes we'll come up a little short on the quality. Now, most people can't tell, but I can tell, and that's where it's like, sometimes you have to ask for more money. Sometimes you have to explain why there needs to be more money, because things happen. And sometimes if you can explain it in a passionate way, you care enough people will give you more money, you know? So
So I got two follow-up questions to that. Can you think back to like one of the first bigger projects, whether it was a $2,000 check or a $20,000 check, and like you at a spot where you're like, oh, well, I'm not fully confident, but like, I believe I can figure it. Like, I just got to take it and just do it. You know what I mean? Was
yeah,
there like
yeah.
any first jobs where you were just shitting your pants, being like, man, by taking this means I have a lot of responsibility to deliver, and you had to go do that?
Well, by the time I was getting the big money, I was already skilled up to the level that even that big money wasn't enough money. You know what I mean? It's still not enough. Like I still don't feel like I'm at I still don't feel like the money matches with my experience and my skills. So I'm like, but I will show you something that is going to answer that question. So this wasn't like big money. I think I got paid like $800 for this. Okay. This is a job with IMAX for South by Southwest 2017. And these guys came in from LA and they needed a gaffer. I'm not a gaffer. You know, I DP'd some stuff at this point, but I barely knew what a gaffer did, right? But
Still
one of
don't.
my best friends, he's like one of the best gaffers in, you know, in the country. You know, he like gaffed There Will Be Blood and like some really major movies, you know. And I took the job because I'm like, I take everything. 2016, 2015, 2016, 2017, I said yes to everything. If it wasn't an embarrassing number, and a lot of times, and this, I just want to throw this out there if you guys want to use this strategy or not. If someone wants to pay me, let's say $500 to do something, I'm not going to, and I want to do the job, I'm probably not going to take the money. I'm going to do it for free. I'm going to find a way to pro bono the deal. And because I don't want to be the guy who accepted $500 for my work. I'm not trying to put a price on it. The client's still going to know the value of what I'm providing. Sometimes I'll even show them like an invoice with a complete zeroed out discount so they know what they got, but I'm not going to take a discounted rate for what I'm providing. So I'll work out some kind of like, here's a pro bono deal. I really love you guys. I want to work with you. I think this is a great opportunity. And, you know, down the road, we'll figure it out. And people love you. And they, you know, them loving me that much more is better than that $500, right? And that's always like worked for me. So this job, I'm telling my friend, I'm like, yo, I don't know what to do. Like, I didn't even know what the job was. So IMAX built like they had these cameras, like a Matrix style, right? It's like 50 cameras that all shot at the same time. So they could make these 3D like videos, and you got on the stage and you jumped or you did something, and then like you got this little memorabilia video thing. So these guys, I came in to gaffer them, and I told my friend, dude, I don't know what to do. He goes, just fool them before they fool you. And I said, okay, cool. And so I went in there and I had to assemble this whole green screen. I'd never put up a green screen before. And there also needed to be a green screen on the ceiling. You don't see that yet. And this was what I did. This is so ridiculous. So these guys are both have this huge company in LA. It's just two guys. And every time they want to do something, they look to me and they're like, well, what do you think about that? And I was like, every time someone's going to ask me, I scratch my chin and I look like I'm just thinking. And in my head, I'm like, I have no idea what to do. But if I just do this, I'm buying some time until I figure it out. Right. And that's what I did. And what happened was my relentless ability to just never give up. Like the client came in and there were like some parts of the green screen that just weren't perfect. And I just, man, I did whatever it took, up and down the ladder, safety pin, make things straight, just, you know, go around tables, gaff tape them to the floor, just all the things I learned coming up, like as a young guy, just like make the whole thing clean, perfect, and just like went way over above and beyond to the point where these guys were so blown away, they gave me like an extra $500 in cash afterwards, you know. And that was from someone that took a job that I was like, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do on this job, but I just did it anyways. And so I was just relentless, and I just bought myself time to think and just kept going, you know. And when it was done, I just like laughed the whole way home. I couldn't believe that, I did. These guys thought I was like the greatest gaffer ever, I guess. I don't know.
So
But
here's a bullshitting lesson 101, guys.
yeah.
Like when people talk to me about sports, I have no idea what's ever happening. And it's the same deal. It's like if we're watching a game, it's like, well, who do you think's gonna take it? Like I probably won't even know the teams who are playing, even if I'm watching for 20 minutes, because I'm just like zoned out. So I do the same exact thing. I'm just like, I mean, well, like both sides, like it's hard to say, like, what do you think?
Yeah.
And I throw it back on them, and then they'll
Mhm.
like talk for 2 minutes about things I have no idea, and I'm just like, totally, they're a fourth quarter team anyways, or something. And they're like, oh man, you're great at sports. So the same deal. It's like fake it till you make it, but actually there's a great TED talk on this: fake it till you become it. In other words, if you just fake it till you make it, you're just faking it still when you made it, but like become that person over time, right? So if you're Tom, or Tom on here, Tom's on here, Tom's question about like, how do I get more confident producing and like directing people and whatnot, I'll record some stuff for you, but it's like, show up, do it with confidence, pretend like this is how it goes, you know? And over time, you're naturally going to become better and better, better at it, to where that is all second nature, and you're not even thinking about that, and you're just focused on all the other stuff. Awesome. I think you brought up one other thing. So you said you take some projects sometimes, if the value wasn't there, you'd show them kind of what value you would be charging, take it on, build the relationships, which is huge. That's actually how Deji just closed his first 2K retainer, did a couple reels for a gym for free, built the relationship, told him that's what he wanted to do with the client. So I love that. And then those first jobs, you said you were already pretty experienced with some of those when you were taking them on.
Yeah, once the bigger stuff started happening, I mean, I was already experienced with it. So I never shit my pants over it. I was always like, well, we need more money. We need more money.
Well, so then let me ask you this, like when it came to those projects, do you have sort of a decision-making process when it came time to decide if you should take them on or not?
It's just if it's something that I felt that was exciting to me, in fact, that those music videos I did last year, that was actually a string of 6 I had done over 2 years. And I talked to a friend of mine who's a lot younger than me, but he's just like, music videos was his thing. And he's already like blown up in that world. He like lives down in Mexico and he does a lot of stuff. But he's like, dude, don't take this project. Like, you're going to regret it. He told me, and I just ignored him, and I can't say that I regretted it because it was a lot of fun. And I think what we made was really cool. But it's like we were making, what should have cost like $75,000-$80,000 music videos for 10. And, I'm running everybody ragged. I'm working people like 18-hour days, and, I'm not sleeping. I did like 2 weeks of pre-production. At the end of the day, I probably walked away with like $1,000, you know what I mean? So it wasn't good for business at all. But had I not done it, I would have regretted not, I would have always been thinking about the project. I would have always been wishing.
So let me ask
did
this. Was it helpful for you personally?
Yeah. And I watched a video the other day, and this guy was saying something like, when he made a bunch of money, he went, like a lot of people talk about when they make money, they go buy the Lambo, and it was the stupidest thing they ever did, right? It's like so dumb. This guy was like, I went and, lived in the Hollywood Hills. It was like $14,000 a month and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I can always make more money. But if I hadn't done that, I would have been thinking about that for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm never going to live in the Hollywood Hills again. It's stupid. Like, I wouldn't do it. But if I didn't I can always make more money. But if I didn't go do that, then that would have been occupying my brain. And I tend to suffer from that a lot. Like, things occupying my brain that just are not serving me. So I think for that, it was the right thing to do, because then I was able to say, like, I did it. I'm happy with it. I think that we did some good work. We had some really good times. I worked with it was the biggest crew I've ever, directed. There was like 7 people crew, 30 to 50 people extras, and I fucking crushed it. And that was a huge confidence builder booster for me, because I'm like, oh, I could run any set now, because not only did I crush the set with like a ragtag crew that was all working way below scale, but people were having the best times of their life. And I'm like, you work on my crew, you're going to have the best time. That's bar none. So if you want to, if you want to have a good time, work for me. And that's how it's going to go down, So I think it was the right thing.
Let's, and I'm asking this because travel has been very similar for me. It is like, I love to do it. If I never got paid to go kill myself for 2 weeks for a client shoot, just to like go to an epic place and film awesome stuff, like I would have done it for free. Over time, being able to actually get paid pretty decently on travel gigs was like worth it. So was there like a percentage of your energy that maybe went into more creative projects like that? Or like, how did you start to say, well, I need like change it from like, I need to earn now, I want to scale the business the right way more than just take on fun like creative projects? Like what, at what point did you get to that?
Well, I think it's age, right? Like getting to the age where like, man, if I don't start building a business, I'm not going to ever get to do this stuff again. Right. Because it's going to be like, fuck, I can't do that. I'm going to have to, juggle what I'm going to be able to do with my life. Right. So that was a big part of it. But also, man, I've been carrying this feature length documentary for like 5 years. And so if I haven't been doing that, it'd be different. Right. But it's like, that is a beast of its own. That's like constant fundraising. It's not like you're making a Netflix film or you're making like a feature that has the opportunity to get sold. Like this is going to PBS, straight endowment money, grant money. I mean, it's just a different world, and it's not something that I recommend. And this, I'll just kind of segue to this. This is a wonderful project that I have. Like this sheds light on this Marine culture and this like post-combat world that is going to like really do something in the military community. It's going to make a huge impact. So that keeps me driven to continue on, because there's a lot of people this is going to be very, very important to. However, anybody in here like desires to make documentaries, consider it like many times over, because it is not easy, especially if you're like, I'm just going to start making it and see what happens. Dude, this is going to go on forever. If you get commissioned to do something, that's different. Like a company commissions you to make a documentary about their owner or something like that, or something, and they just like your work and they commission you. Yeah, go for it. Go for a commissioned documentary. But if you're just trying to like make something because you're in love with the genre, like really consider that before you do it. There's a guy named Michael Gear who was in an NLC, and he was at the first in-person thing. He had a client that kind of bankrolled his documentary and got him seed money. So it worked for him. He made it. And then all of a sudden a nonprofit like gave him like 350 grand to make the next one, So like, that's one of those special situations where you want to have a relationship and make something based off of like what other people, it's just like when you're doing business, like what does the client want? So you're going to make something like, what do other people want? And you can have some kind of alignment where you're making something that's going to like improve their life or achieve a big goal that they want. Like, let's say you have a client that, their parents died from, a mother died from breast cancer or something. And there's an opportunity to work with like one of those lymphoma societies or something like that. Like that's a good opportunity I'd say go for something like that. But this has been an incredible challenge, and I'm in it for the long run. If you choose to do this type of thing, really consider it. Yesterday I was just at South by, with Elizabeth Avalon, who's like Robert Rodriguez's ex-wife, and they've been producing films for years. They made a great film. After the film, everybody's like, yeah, we're looking for distribution. We're looking for distribution. And I'm like, these people are like 50 plus years old, been doing it all their life, and they're looking for distribution. It's like, this game is not, it's a tough game.
The oceanographer guy, the underwater video guy?
No, this was a film about border patrol agents. It was like a narrative film.
Dude,
It's cool.
same concept. It's on Amazon Prime. I think his name is Mike something. But 50 years, like he was like the Steve Irwin of underwater videography and showing the world, Nat Geo, BBC, and every project he ever needed to do was like 6 to 12 months of trying to just get fundraising and
Yeah,
convince someone. And as I started, it was the same deal. Like my bigger passion was like environmentalism and sharing more of like the natural beauty of the world, and like we need to protect it. And as I kept trying to work with more and more nonprofits and like take on it was the same deal. And after like a year or two of like being like, I'm not being true to myself if I only work with companies, because I wanted to make a difference and I want to help people, like all this stuff. I realized, well, I'm really helping people in their companies. I'm still developing all the skills, and like by building my business and learning how to become a more successful person just in general, and I guess a person with more like influence and power over time, like the relationships have been building in those worlds as well. And now it's like, well, fuck it, I'll just take 6 months off and bankroll it myself if I need to.
exactly. And I guess that's the answer to your question. It's like, and my advice to everybody: get the money first, then help the people. Put your seatbelt on first, then help the person next to you. That's the analogy everybody uses. Like,
Yeah,
get the money first. Otherwise, like, you're going to find yourself in a situation like I have multiple times on this project. It's like the project ran out of money. My whole thing is the show must go on always. So I'm like writing checks from my commercial business to my business that runs the movie just to keep my movie afloat. Now I don't have any money in my world. I'm like struggling to try and figure out how to pay my bills because I just loaned all the money out of my commercial business to pay for, travel to
dude,
cover this film.
the same thing. And guys, this is why I harp on so much, like build the systems, do the boring work, revisit your sales process, your marketing process, your financial systems, all of that over and over and over again. Because once like I stepped out of DNC, more of like the day-to-day, just to more of like an oversight and I guess like mentory role, I guess. For 6 months, like you would think, because I'm doing coaching and the idea around like online coaches are just like making $1 million a month or whatever, there was a lot of expenses I incurred or paid for out of DNC basically to be able to ramp up and build those systems. And if I didn't have that other stuff in place, if I didn't have some cash like in the bank, if I didn't have my finance systems in place, like I would have had to stop 6 months in and be like, dude, I need to get back and just focus on DNC because that is earning me the money and that's where I need to. A year into it now, the tables have turned. And that's where I always tell you, it's like a car shifting gears when you're building. You ramp up, you slow down for a second, get some shit done. You ramp up, you slow down, you ramp up, you slow down. And sometimes as you're scaling or building, you incur these negative costs. So just like food for thought for whoever feels like they're going slow. Business is a slow game. I forgot who posted this, but I read it today. It's like, I think it was Travis Chambers, actually. He's like, most people don't realize, but like when business growth is like 30 to 100% per year, like you're building your legacy. You're building a company that will survive the ups and downs of everything. But when you're in it, you don't feel that way because you see someone, they just sold their company for 20 million. And it's like, what happened for the 10 or 15 years leading up to that sale, right? They were day in, day out, showing in, putting in the work, just like you repeat systems and you repeat systems and you repeat systems. You just get them to flow, shoot, edit, repeat. That's how you learn how to be a better creator. If you want to get into documentaries, find a client that says, well, we'd love to do like some kind of like mini documentary. And you say, well, that'd be like $100,000. What about a mini doc? Right. And then you get them in at 10K and you do 4 minutes, you get your interviews, you learn how to build out over time with that big vision on your vision board. I did the same thing, dude. It's so funny how many things on that board from 5 years ago are like the actual shit now. Like I got an RV on there. I got places I visited. All of that's awesome stuff. Cool.
Yeah.
So
Speaking of that, I just want to I want to show you guys something real quick.
Yeah.
Just to be on top of that. So this, this is funny. So here's me here with my Oscar in Miami, and I photoshopped that on there.
I was
You
gonna
know?
say, wait, you waited this long to tell us you got an Oscar and an Emmy?
I photoshopped that on there, and there's like my bank account for the project, right? So like I have this in my office, and this is what keeps me going on this documentary. It's like seeing this, it's like
Can I
focused on
share
this
with
whole
you?
thing.
Can I share with you mine real quick?
Yeah, do it.
So this was me and Leo when we won our Golden Globe here. I think it Oscar. I don't even
How do
know
I
what that
how
is.
do I do it? Stop it.
Oh.
There you go. And this stuff seems silly, guys, but I mean, it's like, you got to be able to see this stuff.
Here's me performing at the Super Bowl. And then when Obama granted me the Best Person award. So just so you guys know, a lot happens behind the scenes with me and Mr. James over here.
Yeah, you gotta you gotta create these, these. It seems silly, but you can't be it if you can't see it. That's like the big thing, You have to be able to visualize these things,
I just made mine. It's a Forbes 30 under 30. I found the one that had James Bond in there, and I was like, oh, I want this one.
Dude, it's crazy how that stuff works, and writing your manifesto out and repeating yourself this stuff and keeping and reminding yourself every morning when you wake up, like what your purpose is of the day and why you're doing what you're doing, what you're working towards. So is there any more you wanted to share about the movie before we open up to questions, or you just want to jump into questions?
Yeah, let's just jump into questions. If anybody wants to know more about that,
Jump into questions. Who's got some questions?
Offline.
Anybody? Bueller?
Come on.
When exactly did you join NLC? Like, because I know you've been in it for a
I
little
joined
bit.
NLC in 2019.
So quick question. Before you joined NLC, where were you kind of at business wise, and like not necessarily just monetarily, but like money, time, energy, versus kind of like where have things gotten to over the years?
So when I joined NLC, I was already doing six figures in my company. Not necessarily doing things that I was doing some really great stuff. 2019 was an amazing year. I was like traveling all over the place. I was just doing some really cool stuff. But then I was also doing some other stuff, like these political campaigns that seemed cool. Like I was out on a presidential campaign, like during the whole Biden run and all that stuff. Like I was around all those people, and I was like, man, this is weird. Like this is not cool at all, and I was getting 10K a month to go out on the road, which, that was it was a cool experience, but it was also weird to see some of this stuff. And I just didn't like it because the guy I was with, I didn't believe in him. His name was Julian Castro. He was one of the candidates. But once I was around the dude, I didn't believe in him. And so then I was like, nah, I don't like this, and that just goes back to like who I am. Like, it's hard for me to take money to work with people I don't believe in, because then I can't give it my all. And so then my work suffers. Then the stuff that I'm producing, it just kind of gets kind of whack because I'm not going to go the extra mile, because the person is not giving you the passion and you just don't believe in them. So I was doing some stuff like that. And I think with NLC, the thing that really struck out at me was Paul was saying stuff like, that reoccurring income. Because before that, for me, it was like one-off projects. I didn't know any different, and around the same time, like I was working around people, and like I kept pitching this idea is like, let's not make one video, let's make like 30 pieces of content. That was like, nobody was doing that at the time. I never locked down one of those clients, but I was talking about it a lot. And so Paul was saying like, having this reoccurring revenue. And I'm like, damn, that's what I need. I need reoccurring revenue. This whole one-off project, having to chase clients down, getting new clients, this sucks. Like, I can't keep doing this. That's what really attracted me. So then when I got into the program, I think the biggest part was like, and early in the program, when you hear about like the gates of change and like understanding how to get disciplined with business and how to get disciplined with yourself, creating a manifesto, you know, I forget some of the names of some of these modules, but that stuff started really opening my mind, and I think I just ended up really liking the community, and I just like being around other people and contributing to these talks and just helping others and being around other people that are doing the same thing and getting feedback. And it's like, I used to be in a real competitive state with other video people in my town. I was like, why is that person getting that gig? And you just had a bad attitude about it, but I've changed over the years. And so being in this community where it's not like that, I just feel good about it. And I like being here. And it's just been really helpful to me, because now when I'm going in and I'm pitching clients, I guess, is my whole mindset is different. I just, what I'm pitching is different. The way I'm handling the conversation is different. The way I'm talking to people is different. And it's not just with clients. Like, I'm walking around asking people, hey, how can I help you? What are you having problems with? Maybe if I know somebody, I can help you. And it's just part of my life now. So I think it's really helped me just in my whole way of being in a lot of ways.
Follow-up question to that. I forgot it. Come back to me.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions from the peanut gallery?
Oh, I got it. So you invested a bunch of time into personal development before that. Tony Robbins events, Napoleon Hill. How did those, when you got into the program and saw those intro, and it was like time management, personal power, the quantum universe, those modules, were you surprised as I was, I guess I should say, with some of those concepts, and how it was just like, oh shit, how have I never thought of that? Or how have I never heard this? Or where has this been my whole life?
Yeah, yes and no, because I think you and I both have a similar story in which I bought Sam Ovens' program first.
Yeah. Same.
Okay. And so a lot of that stuff comes from Sam Ovens' program. And so, but what I tried to do, I tried to shortcut the whole thing, right? I try to be like, oh, this guy's teaching the same thing as this guy, and this guy's program is cheaper. Let me buy this one. And I couldn't have been more wrong. And that takes you right back to the niche, right? It's not choosing the niche that makes you powerful. It's learning about the niche, doing the work, spending time with people, and becoming a master in that world. And it's not just about, pulling the lever on Facebook ads and stuff like that. It's learning about what that world of clients desires and just mastering. That's what Paul did. He got into the mindset of what all the video people were looking for, and that was the reoccurring revenue. It was stop chasing one-off projects. So I then bought this course, and also Sam Ovens' endless stories. I'm like, oh man, I can't watch this again. This is just one and done. It's like last time I watched those, but learned a lot, came into this one. It was more catered towards what I was doing video. And I just enjoyed it. You make relationships and you're like, I just like being part of this community.
Andrew, hello. My name's Tom.
What's up, buddy?
Hey.
What's up, Tom?
So yeah, man. So I wanted to ask you, in terms of grants, so you actually got grant money from the government to fund some of your documentaries. Is that right?
Yeah.
So how does that process go down? I've heard about that, and that sounds so interesting. So do you get to keep, could you buy an RE camera and keep that forever after that, and then just use
No.
Oh, okay.
No. So, but there's more than one way to skin a cat, right? So the money that comes from the government, so the government money goes into these endowment pockets, into all these other places. So all kinds of different agencies get that money, right? And they have their own grant writers that request that money, and they'll get huge sums of money. So my funder, Latino Public Broadcast, right? They service straight to PBS, and a lot of other organizations do the same. They service to PBS because PBS is a government-funded platform as well, right? And it's supposed to be for the betterment of our, the United States community and people to learn about different cultures and stuff like that. And so you just have to search just grants, just look for them. A lot of people give them, and they're very, very difficult to get. I've written like 50, 60 grants and I've gotten 2, right? So you just have to write the grant, which is a very lengthy thing. I don't really recommend going that route, to be honest. Once again, like I don't recommend the grant world because the time it takes to write the grant, to hear back, to go through the second round, to follow up, all this stuff, man, you could have probably gone and sold $100,000 project. You could have improved your skills and gone out and sold something and then gone bought your Arri camera and answered to nobody, but yourself and your business. So if you get a grant and you buy an Arri camera with it, you have to sell the camera and then contribute the money back into the pot. But what you would do is you buy the Arri camera with your commercial business, and then you rent the camera to the project, and you can then use the money to pay for that rental, or pay you as a director of photography that comes with the camera to work on the project, right? So that would be the way you go about, doing something like that. You would buy it yourself and then rent it to the project.
Second example, RV, 140, I think it was $120,000 loan. Bought it with the company. The company pays. If I want to, like, let's say I wanted to just take it for a personal trip, I could basically list on Outdoorsy, rent it to myself type of deal, and then take it for as long as I want. Or I could set it up as a Airbnb at a property I own, and it's renting out the RV for someone to stay in and bring income. It's the same concept with a camera. This is just a physical place to live. You know what I mean? So all of that's possible. I think as you keep going, it's more like find the clients, and you can always rent that stuff, Tom. Like anytime I needed a red on a shoot, I didn't even learn to use it. I just hired someone with a red.
Don't buy expensive cameras either.
Yeah. It's like literally the only reason I bought a Sony A7S III last year and a new super zoom lens, but it was because I had so many I kept renting the same lens, and we were using a Sony A7S III, and the color correction between that and the A7 III just got annoying. So I was like, fuck it, just get them both the same. So both cameras, it was like a workflow efficiency thing.
Yeah.
I sold one of my old ones, put it in for that. And it wasn't like, okay, well, if I take this on, I got to go sell some jobs. Like, no, go sell the jobs. Then you can bring in that stuff.
Right.
Because the worst thing you can do is get so financially strapped that you have that pressure to where it's like, shit, dude, I have to go sell. I have to go sell. I have to go sell. And then you're not even showing up in sales conversations the same way. You're not as relaxed. You're trying to push the sale versus like being there to help and just gather information and whatnot.
Yeah. And also, if you're going to buy an A7S III, I think that's okay to buy that. That camera should, the camera you're working with, you buy a $3,000 camera, I don't think there's anything you can't do with that. Now, there's a level in which working with certain people in which that's not going to cut it in certain situations. But I'd be willing to say you're not in that situation. But don't go buying a $50,000, $60,000 camera thinking it's going to make, buy one of those if that's your world and you are getting like a $2,500 fee to show up every single day, you're just getting there to show up every single day, and you're on a commercial for 7 days. And then once you're off that commercial, you're on another commercial, and that's all you do is DP, and even then rent the camera, right? Because the next commercial, they might not want a red. They might want an Arri, they might want something else. They might want you to shoot on an iPhone. You know what I mean? Rent it, and then you have a question here. It says, what if you're on an ETD call where the client is giving you passion speech to discount off you? Do you give passion speech on why you charge the amount you do back to client? No, this is a different situation than what I was talking about. If a client's giving you a passion speech and you want to work with a client, make your own decision to just take that money or don't. But don't give a passion speech. You just, either say, no, I'm sorry, it's not going to work, or you consider working with them. The passion speech is if somebody's already given you a bunch of money and you need you need more money on top of that. Like they've already paid you a considerable amount of money, and they're like, we're literally tapped out. And I'm talking about like $10,000, $20,000, $50,000. And you're like, we need another $10,000, then that's when you can get passionate. Like, we have to have this money, because if we don't, we're not going to, we can't make this explosion happen, or, some kind of thing that's really going to make the difference. And there's only certain clients in which that's going to matter. But if it's the smaller client that is like, we only have $2,500, blah, blah, blah. And you're just like, it either works for you or it doesn't.
Yeah.
And you got to be straight with them. You got to be like, well, I'm sorry, it doesn't work for me. I don't know. I usually say this. I don't know anybody that'll do it for that price, but if I do, I'll let them know. I don't know that kind of, I know, but, you got to be careful out there, because a lot of people will say, oh, I can get someone to do it cheaper. And you're like, okay, well, and a guy I was listening to the other day, he said, well, that's fine, but let me ask you this. How do you price, how do you make your decisions with your company? Are you trying to be the best? Or are you just trying to be the cheapest in the industry? So you put it back on them. You're like, how do you make decisions within your company? Are you guys like trying to be the best? And don't be condescending. Are you trying to be like the best in your industry? Or are you just trying to be like the most affordable price? Right. And that puts it back on them.
That is awesome. And then add this line. If $1,000, if it's $1,000 difference we're talking about, and that's going to break the bank here, like, my bigger concern is it's not the right time to be investing into something like this. So are you trying to be the best, or you're trying to be the cheapest? Like letting them know if that's like, because realistically, once we do this, I'm going to want to do more with you guys. And if I have to cut corners on this, my biggest concern is you're not going to get the quality that you're expecting. The reason you're coming to work with me, I'm going to have to find all these ways to do it cheaper. And that's my biggest concern. We're going to go through this whole thing, and because of like a little cutting corners, it's not going to be this final end product that you want. I love that. Awesome. Good stuff. Good question, Tom. Did that answer your question? Any follow-ups on that?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, thank you, Andrew and Ceebz. That was excellent. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and reach out any other time, like in a direct message, man. I'm down to help with anything.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, you guys essentially answered my follow-up question. It was essentially like how to not come off thirsty, because right now it's like, I'm essentially like adding more subscriptions to my month with like Frame.io and like some other type of things that are helping me in my business. And it's kind of like, I got to do some calculations. I'm like, damn, I'm gonna have to pay more this month. And, I don't want to come off thirsty to the next earn the deal I do tomorrow, actually with a music video client. But at the same time, like, I want to be able to show my worth and, be able to explain it correctly and not come off like, like, yeah, like super 500, so yeah.
Well, you just got to be calm. And like, if somebody wants to give you something short, you just decide you want to do it or not. And if you decide you want to do it, you got to just be straight and say, okay, here's the deal. My normal price to do something like this, 25, 35, 50, 10,000 or whatever. That's what I do. But I really like what you guys are doing. Let's figure out how we can make this work. And then continue the discussion. But don't just say like, yeah, I'll take your 500. Now that client comes back to you. Hey, Tom, I thought the videos were $500, man. What's up? Why is it so expensive all of a sudden? You know what I mean? And then you've just set yourself up for failure, and that's going to end your relationship real quick, or cause you to be the $500 video guy forever. So you have to like slow the whole conversation down and just tell them like, look, the price is normally this, and you decide if you want to do it or not. And when you make that decision, say, look, let's figure out how we can make this work. I like what you guys are doing. And let's just work this out and continue the conversation. At the end of the day, if it doesn't work for you, just walk away politely. I really want to do this, man, but it's just financially, it's not going to work for my business. There's just no way we can make this work. And if they really want to work with you, they'll find the money to do it. So.
Older clients can be more challenging, especially if you take on more subscriptions. But to tie into Andrew's point, you need to figure out your minimum on a project. And I always was adding 500 to every project for like not itemizing it or line iteming, but like in my head, I would just, okay, if I was planning to charge 3,000, I would charge 3,500, knowing I need to cover software subscriptions, this, and that, all those other things. And then what we do now is like for active campaign, let's say the first couple clients we did that for, I just incurred the cost. It's part of doing business. The cost of doing business, we need to have the tools that we need to make ourselves most efficient, right? So this ties into the profit first workshop, why you really need to be clear about what your expenses are, what's going where, because it will give you a better sense of like what you need to be charging with stuff. Sorry, it's been a long day. Forgot my train of thought again. I don't remember.
It's all good. I'm gonna have to bounce here in a second. Does anybody have any more questions that we can wrap it up with?
Rich dropped a question, and before we go, any other questions you guys have for Andrew, if it's not like super personal, share it in the main channel. So we can all, like, a lot of other people are probably going to have those questions, and I always get value from like any knowledge Andrew drops. So Rich asked, Andrew, would love to hear more about the transition into retainers from one-off projects and what is included for your clients with those retainers and pricing.
Yeah, a lot of it is just things that I'm learning here in NLC. It's just coming at it with that in mind, that's my intention, is to get the long-term project, right? And so it's building that relationship and letting the client know, like, hey, I'm in this for the long term with you. I want to help you grow, and how can we work that? And normally by that time, I've given so much knowledge to them about how they can improve their business, just free in the strategy session, just free knowledge, that they generally want to work with me more. And if they want to do just the one, we just want to do this right now, I'm like $10,000 plus, boom. Like, you know what I mean? And then it's like, ooh, that's a lot. And it's like, okay, well, how can we make this work? And if it doesn't work for me, then I'm like, respectfully, I want to work on this project for you, but it's not gonna, it can't work for my business. It's just not, the same thing we talked about earlier, saying things like, are you trying to be the cheapest or are you trying to be the best? That's a really good one.
The other thing, guys, is when like I would charge 2,000 for ads with like a $3,000 budget, and they're like, well, so and so will only charge 600. Why are you so much more? And I'm like, well, ad managers, they're not using nearly the same amount of tools and subscriptions that I have behind the scenes that just make everything 1,000 times more efficient. So like, I totally get it, because they're just only working on usually one or two things. We're using 15 to 20 different platforms, and a lot of those have monthly subscriptions. And that's just part of working with me. Like, I could either build a bigger team and pay them more, or I can build systems the right way. I just opt to keep my team smaller because I think it gives our clients more like personalized attention and whatnot.
Andrew, with that, like, I know you work in music video artists, and when you were starting out and you loved their music, like you really liked their music, but you knew they were just like kind of broke. Like, how'd you get past that? Like, how'd you find the music video clients that could just like afford,
You gotta make the free ones. I mean, I'll send you a video that I made for I didn't get paid nothing, but the budget, $1,000 went into flying a actress in from Brazil. That was 1,000 of the $3,000 budget. You know what I'm saying? And the thing looks really expensive because I wanted to create something that was going to be my calling card. So I put the work in. It's just, Tom, it just depends on what you want to do. Where do you care enough about your work? Do you want to get that on your resume? Do you want to build your skills? Do it, man. I mean, I'll spend days, and this is not good business advice, so don't take this as business advice. I'll spend so much time and days making the vision that I want to make because I care that much about it, because I care about the project that much. And it's not the best for getting money right now, but over time, developing the relationships when people are like, I have people that treat me like I'm the one. There is no other one. You know what I mean? Like they try to work with other people and it just never, and that's, and for the long term, that's good stuff. You know what I mean? If you can develop like there's no one else but you, you can have, that client, that music video artist might blow up one day. And then you're the guy, you just never know. So it just depends on what you want to do.
Yeah, how I think about it, and which kind of ties into what we were talking about before, like with travel, it was the same deal for me. I'd be up at 4 a.m. to go film at the beach for sunrise, practice flying my drone, practice time lapses, practice creating. Then by 10, I would already have some stuff edited. And then I would, from 10 till like 3 or 4, like no attention at all on that. Or it would be Monday through Thursday, 100% of energy went into just DNC, like no travel shit, no sunrises, nothing. Friday, like come noon, I would switch gears. I would go hit the gym like early on Friday. I would give myself then permission up until Monday to work on whatever I wanted to keep moving myself in that long-term direction. So there were many weekends where I just sat there literally and edited 20 hours over the weekend working on a travel video. My Kenya videos, I didn't finish those until a year after that trip because it wasn't paid. It was just an epic trip. But I'm like, it was so sick for me not to invest the energy. Like, this is what I want more of. Antarctica, I paid for the guys to come with me to film when we didn't even have a client. Like it was 12 of us went for free, right? But we didn't actually have a budget on that. But I was like, I want you guys there. If anything, it's going to give me a chance to just like teach you more about what I've done on these trips. And then we can create awesome content, be able to put it out there, show other brands. That putting that kind of stuff out is what brought in the 200K retainers and stuff like that over a longer period of time. So I know like creating sick commercials is totally part of like your long-term vision. And it's just like, keep that in mind, and all those like cinematic style, like learning more about copywriting is only going to help, like as far as like a VO could go in a sick commercial. Learning more about interviewing and becoming better at VBC interviews and testimonial interviews and just getting people comfortable on camera means you're going to become more of an authority when you get freaking Giselle in for your commercial, or whoever else is Giselle and Tom Brady. Somehow you're going to pull it off. I know it. But like all of those little things are going to keep leading you in. So some of those less paying jobs that were, like Andrew was saying, like, I would just do it for free if they offered like $400. It was the same kind of concept where I was just like, well, this is not something that is going to build my business, but it's taking me in that direction. It's letting me get this experience. I would film live events for $20 an hour just to see how they set up a live event and ran the cables everywhere and how they had the camera operators set up. And I would get that experience, and like $300 is $300. I was like, I was there for the experience. So just, I had that vision in mind. And since I started, it was always been keep working towards that vision. Does it somehow fall within me moving in that direction, or is it pulling me in another direction for monetary reasons? Right. So just a little tidbit, but we got time for one last question, or you got to bounce?
Let's do it. Yeah. The last question. And then anybody, dude, hit me up anytime. I know Lawrence has hit me up before, Raymond and I have talked. Like, guys, I'm available anytime. Like, I want to help because you put that stuff out there. A lot of people have helped me in my career, and one thing I also say before the last question, is that if you're not trying to be the best, you won't even be good. And being the best takes time. So you got to put the reps in somehow. So if you're waiting around to get a paid project to get good, you might keep waiting. So you got to be making stuff. You got to be out there creating. That's the big
sharing.
Thing. Yeah.
Share that shit. Don't hide. Announce to the world, the universe, whatever. Like, you have to talk. This is why our theme has been sharing wins. You have to talk about where you want to go and what you want to do and put it out there in the world, because you don't know who Tom was like, oh, I didn't know you did that. Or, oh my God, I just talked to this person earlier today. They were literally looking for someone that can help them with this. It's how it works. You just got to put it out there and don't hide behind the metaphorical screen, even though it's a real screen.
All right, last question.
I got one. So, and now I'm second guessing on what you're talking about documentaries, but I went down to Bahamas to shoot, and to this fishing lodge for fly fishing, and actually came across this incredible story that will basically rewrite the history of fly fishing. That's literally where it started, but they don't know about it. And also, they're trying to bring mining into Andros, and a lot of companies that are fronting as nature conservation are doing not so good things. One guy even went to like jail because they're trying to shut him up. So, but it's just an incredible story, and I'm like, man, this would be an incredible documentary. But I have no idea, like, and I have talking head too. We even sit them down and interview. So I have interviews. I could put a preview together. But if I did put like a little commercial preview together, like, should I don't even know like if I want to pursue it or like where I would start or even try to fund it. I know you said grants are probably not the right way, but yeah. I don't
Find
know.
somebody who cares about that. Find someone who cares. Don't make me. I started making my movie. I just went and started making it. Like I didn't care. I was running credit cards. Like I'm on, man. I'm 100% in. Once I'm in, I'm in. That's just my world. But having been in this world now, and I'm going to bestow advice, if that's not the way you approach life, it's going to be, I mean, you're going to find yourself like, you know, almost crying in your hands certain days. You know what I mean? And if that's what you want your future to be, go for it. But if you don't want that to be your future and you are passionate about this, make the talking heads, write a little one pager, find someone who cares about that issue that will bankroll the thing. You know, someone that cares about it so much that's willing to back it.
Take that 40 hours you're going to spend doing that and just do it. And then show the next person and being like, yeah, but this, you know, I got 10 grand for this, and that was probably 5 times too cheap. Or go look at some of the videos we've done for Decade on their YouTube channel, because we're doing mini docs with.
Yeah, you could do something mini. Like,
yeah,
don't go do a full blown
kind of
thing.
like a 2 to 4 minute testimonial / case study / mini documentary.
Yeah, make something short. Like something short is not going to kill you. Don't, you know, the thing. Also, the other thing is, man, my film is going to be on PBS, and there's like extreme standards on that shit, and it's, you know, it's another world, man.
We've done a couple TV shows, and it was the same, and it was just like, this sucks.
Yeah. There's standards that other people are setting for you, and it's like, oh, I just want to make it my way.
Yeah.
You know. So I hope that helped.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But you guys hit me up anytime on Slack. I'm always available, down for whatever.
Absolutely. Well, want to thank you, dude, so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to help everyone here. Everyone can give Andrew a round of applause. And real quick, we got 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Tell us about Mr. James.
Okay, so Ceebz knows about Mr. James. Raymond knows about Mr. James. I read this book called The Alter Ego Effect. It's all about, you know, what we talked about here, if you want to be who you've never, you know, do the things you've never done, you got to be the person you've never been, right? So you create this character who has done these things. And then you're like, what is this character like? What does he do? What does he dress like? Who does he hang out with? What does he, you know, how does he react to things? So my Mr. James is like this James Bond-like character. Mr. James is, my girlfriend came up with the name. That's what she calls me. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. I like Mr. James. He's like James Bond. He doesn't get, you know, he never shows his cards. He doesn't get stressed out. You know, he's suave. Like he only says enough, doesn't say too much. You know, he always makes it, you know, he always saves the day, all that stuff. But the biggest thing is he's calm, because Andrew Gonzalez always saves the fucking day. Like that's who I am. But I don't do it calmly a lot of times. I do it in like a stressed out situation. I want to be like, you know, and so that's my bridge there is like, dude, I saved the day anyways. What am I doing complaining about shit or like freaking out. Like I'm always doing that. So it's like Mr. James is my bridge that helps me always think like, what would Mr. James do? Like he'd be cool right now. He wouldn't say nothing. He'd shut up in the conversation. He wouldn't say too much. You know what I mean? All these things. And so it's just like the book's called The Alter Ego Effect. You guys want to check it out. But a lot of people talk about this. So I would check it out. I know Ceebz, he has his, Ceebs' name is Chris, if you guys didn't know. I just gave it away, but he's got this other character. There's this, world traveling guy who does, what he wants. And, I know Raymond's got his character, Captain Badass or something. What is it? Captain Fantastic?
Captain Savage.
Captain Savage. There, ladies and gentlemen, Captain Savage. Welcome.
And one of those things in creating that, and I've gone through some iterations of mine and still going through iterations. But like in the book, the biggest thing was like picking something that is like emotionally invested, because none of these things, including with Think and Grow Rich, when you think of like what you want, you have to have like true emotions behind it. Otherwise, it's just words and it's just a name. Like Mr. James actually has emotional tie because his girlfriend says something about it. He relates to the character. Ceebz was called Ceebz like
that's where
ago.
Professional Bronzer came in too. It was just like I met a homie who was like, dude, I'm retired. And he was like 25. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? But it was like he grew up with his grandpa and he just embodied this like I'm retired spirit. So if a job is too much work, he's like, dude, I'm retired. I'm not touching this. And that's with me too. Professional Bronzing was like, I want to be where I want to be in the sunshine. I don't want to be trapped to an office if it's night. Like it made no sense. So it was just something else I embodied the same way. Cool. All right, guys. Andrew's got to bounce. Once again, Andrew, thank you so much. If you guys have any follow-up questions, be sure to drop them in the CSM channel or shoot Andrew a DM. Want to thank you guys all for showing up to say Wednesday. Yes, it is all day. Tomorrow we got the Q&A call at 2:00 Eastern. And next week on Tuesday, guys, is going to be another awesome deep dive. We got Jake coming in, who is working with Grant Cardone, Ted McGrath, who's another big like online influencer. He used to work at Facebook, I think 3 years ago, and then he joined CSM. So be sure to show up for that because it's going to be another awesome deep dive. But thanks again, Andrew. We'll catch you guys all next time.
When is that other one with the Grant Cardone?
It's Tuesday at 6:00 Eastern. It's on the CSM calendar, and I'll probably shoot out a reminder email for that one as well.
Awesome.
Cool, guys.
Cool. I'll be there.
Let's keep making moves, sharing wins, stepping into the future state of yourself. I think that was a big theme today as well. So Godspeed.